Welcome to video 3 of the Maintaining a Balance series. Today we're going to be looking at feedback mechanisms, in particular how our nervous system helps us to maintain homeostasis, which we looked at in video 2. So the nervous system allows our body to maintain our constant internal environment that is required for optimum efficiency and functioning of organisms. For this to happen, our nervous system has 4 sections, which allow us to detect the changes, transmit our information, process it, and then create a response to return back to that range or the set value which our body is looking for. Receptors allow us to detect the changes in our internal environment. These include our sensory cells that detect the stimuli from the environment, from our internal environment. Receptors are named according to the type of energy or molecules that they detect. For example, thermoreceptors, temperature, and chemoreceptors, which help us to detect the chemical factors within our body. Then we've got our control center, which in our nervous system is the brain. It processes our incoming information, analyzes it, and then creates a response that's appropriate for our body to return to our values which we're looking for. We've got our effectors, which are our muscles and glands, and they carry out the appropriate response that the brain has made for our body. And then we've got our nerves, which link all of these parts together. They relay the messages from our receptors to our control center to our effectors in the form of electrochemical nerve impulses. This is our stimulus response pathway, in which our body detects the stimulus, goes through our receptors, control center, effectors, and then our response. The system which we're going to look at in a little bit of detail in this video is the way in which our body regulates temperature, and that's also known as the thermoregulation system. There's a few ways depending on whether the internal environment has gained heat or whether it has lost heat. The ways in which our body can gain heat is due to just normal cell functioning. It releases heat as energy as a byproduct of the reactions. Muscle contractions, that also happens during muscle functioning. Depending on whether we've consumed hot food or drinks, can cause our internal environment to increase in temperature. But then we can also get heat from external sources, such as the sun through radiation. Ways in which our body can lose heat is radiation of heat from our body to cooler surroundings, convection, by which wind removes the warm air surrounding the body and replaces it with cool air, and then the evaporation of our sweat, which our body produces, which changes the liquid sweat drops into water vapor in a gas, by which cooling the internal environment in the process. Here is a bit of a flow chart of the feedback mechanism for temperature regulation. So here in the middle, we have homeostasis, so the body temperature in which our body works efficiently. Here we can have 2 types of stimulus. We can either see an increase in body temperature, in which we're going to follow the blue part of the flowchart, or we can have a stimulus in which our body temperature decreases, and then we're going to follow the green section. There's a few changes which our body makes depending on what it's detected from the stimulus. Please refer to this diagram later when you're creating your model of your feedback mechanism. To detect the change in our body temperature, we have our thermoreceptors. Coordination of the change and the response which our body is going to produce is undertaken by the hypothalamus, which is a section within the brain. And then to counteract the change, our body can produce a few responses. If we want to warm the body, so with heat loss, we want to increase our body's temperature back to our optimum range. We will see some of these responses. Raised hair, so in terms of the goosebumps on our body. We can have vasoconstriction, and that's the process by which our blood vessels constrict, so they move away from the surface of our skin, thereby keeping the heat closer to our body's organs and conserving heat. By shivering, we're producing small muscle contractions which generate heat, or we can increase the metabolism of our body, by which our thyroid gland can speed up metabolism to increase the production of heat. When our body's temperature increases above our normal range, we have a few mechanisms by which we can cool the body. One of which is vasodilation, in which our blood vessels get bigger. They move closer to the epidermis, so the surface of the skin, which causes our body to lose heat. We will see sweating, so our sweat glands produce liquid sweat and secreted through our sweat pores. And then our body removes these sweat from our body. So the evaporation of that cools us down and will help to decrease our body's temperature. Or we can decrease metabolism, by which the thyroid gland lowers the rate of metabolism, thereby generating less heat. This is why we're generally tired and lethargic on hot days. An alternative to sweating in animals such as dogs and kangaroos, they don't actually have a process like humans in which they can sweat. So that's why we see dogs panting on hot days and kangaroos licking their bodies, so that the saliva that they're exposing to the environment evaporates to give the same cooling process. Similar things happen in plants as well through transpiration. That's the end of video 3. I'll see you for video 4.